make sure we get out of here in time. We'll do What is up, everybody? Filterless Podcast. Good to see you, Dr. KK.
Mikey in the house.
What's up, Scotty? So, we've got a fun one today.
Yeah, we do.
The one that you've been looking forward to since we started the podcast.
You know how I love a good conspiracy?
Yeah. So, we are going to be talking about UFOs, or from what we've heard, they like their pronouns to be UAPs.
No, we stick UFOs. No, we're not changing. We're not changing.
So, unidentified flying objects and UFOs popped up. You know, probably for our folklore, probably from the early 40s, 50s.
50s. I'd say Roswell was kind of what put it on the map.
Okay. So from the 50s, and then it kind of died off as just, actually in the 50s, if you do a lot of research, there were more people that thought they were actual UFOs back then than now, for sure. Even as of today, like they thought this was like real, everything's real, all of these things are coming and all this kind of stuff. And then it's almost like a psyop happened to where the government was like, oh, these people are crazy. Yeah. Basically.
100%.
And then nothing really happened that you really heard of in any mainstream form up until about 5 years ago, I guess. Just probably right before COVID, we started having some people come out. And even back then, I was kind of like, I just to get this off on the record, I want so badly for them to be real. And I don't know what would happen if they were real, if they are real or whatever, but I just want to get that out there. So I have a major biases here because I want it to be real. But I think what happened about 5 years ago is people were still like, oh, these people are crazy. But the internet, right? The internet opens up so many portals, right? And I know you go down these rabbit holes just as well as I do. And anything new UFO related that comes out, I normally watch it immediately on Netflix or YouTube or Prime or wherever it comes out at. And they've actually had some really good documentaries over the last 18 months or so come out. But not only that, our own government has now said, they renamed from UFOs to UAPs. Obviously, that was a joke at the beginning about the pronouns thing. But they've renamed it to a UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon, which is basically a UFO. Same thing. But now, as of today, and we can jump into this however you want. This is kind of your subject. You know a lot more about this, or have done a lot more research than me and Scott have both. But Marco Rubio, can we pull this up? Has just said, and I think this was today, correct, Scott? Was this actually today?
This is today.
Yeah. So 10:52 this morning. This is on the Intelligencer site, New York Magazine. Marco Rubio says he's heard shocking first-hand accounts of UFOs. And basically what this article gets into is that they've had whistleblowers come out and say that the government has these vehicles, they've got actual unidentified bodies, humanoid type of beings, or whatever you want to call them, aliens. They have all of this stuff, and so these people have come into Congress and said, hey, Congress, y'all aren't getting the full story. We've been there, we've seen it with our own eyes, and the American people should know that things like this are happening, right? Because this could affect the world, right? Yeah. I mean, if the aliens are actually real and we're getting visited by them in whatever form visitation comes in how they do it, we should know about this.
Yeah. I think, I don't even remember how or when, Mike, I went down this rabbit hole. Like I told you, I go down these rabbit holes, and I've been doing this ever since the internet really came out. But it's been closer to 15 years, that long. And as you guys could imagine, 15 years ago, for a, medical school and then doctor, right? And to discuss this openly with my friends, with my family, dude, you want to talk about being like chastised, man. I mean, like literally like made fun of, thought you're crazy. And, I'm on my social media, I put it, you guys have probably seen that. You know, I'm obviously a physician on there. Yeah. So what kind of crazy doctor says, hey, I'm a doctor, come see me, but oh, by the way, I also believe in UFOs. You know what I'm saying? It takes a lot of guts to do that.
15 years ago, 100%. Yeah, 100%. To say that I believe in UFOs 15 years ago was pretty edgy.
Yeah. Now I think it's a little more accepted. But then again, I don't want people to think I'm doing it just for attention. I'm doing this because I really believe this. I have a really good analogy that I made up I'd like to share with you guys.
100%.
Okay. When we were kids, How many planets were there?
There were, let me see, 12, right?
9.
9. Sorry.
9. Well, now there's actually 8 because Pluto doesn't even
dropped
count.
off, yeah.
Okay, that's it. That's it. Do you know how many planets there are now?
Oh my God, we don't even know how many.
There's literally billions.
Yeah.
With a B. I'm not making this up.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have the telescopes at the time to be able to see that every star had planets revolving around it. Now you really can't see the planets, but you can see the shadows within the stars. Okay? So the sun is just a star. Okay? Now, there's billions of planets. Now, this is very important when it comes to discussing aliens. There's this thing called the Goldilocks zone.
Yeah.
If you are too close to your sun, it's too hot, can't sustain life.
Yep.
If you're too far, it's too cold. If you're in this zone in between, it can sustain water to where, we suspect there can be life. That's why people say, Mars, there could be people on Mars because Mars is close to the Earth. Okay, so there's billions of planets. There's, probably billions of stars that could potentially sustain life, right?
Yep.
So the analogy that I made up that I try to explain to people is imagine you are part of an ant colony, okay? A small ant pile on, let's say, a football field, okay? And you're just, you're close enough to the sprinklers to where you can get some life. Let's say ants need water somehow to survive. And somehow, some way, you just live your life and you don't know what's going on. I don't think ants know that there's other ants near or far or close, I think they just kind of hang out and they just stay within their little circle.
Yep.
Now imagine you spend your whole life in this ant pile and then somehow, some way you're able to, someone, lifts you up and then all you see is grass everywhere in all directions. There's just grass. How arrogant is it for you to think we're the only ones?
I completely understand the analogy. I think it's a great one.
Yeah.
I think ants are a great way to get people to understand in the cosmic universe how small we actually are. I mean, we are so small. We're like an ant's ant.
Yeah.
Right? We're like the ant to the ant colony, right? We're like that small when you start comparing us to the rest of even just the known universe, right? Just the known universe, like only as far as we can see with the Hubble and the new telescope. What's the brand new telescope that just came on? I don't remember. What is it?
The Webb telescope.
The Webb telescope. So the new Webb telescope, we can look out, so many light years away, even more so. And that's, billions and billions and billions of miles away that we can look out into the ether. And then it goes on. We don't even know how far.
It doesn't end.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know if it ends or not.
Why would it end? It's weird to think that it ends.
And to think that we're the only beings. Now, let me finish my sentence. To think that we're the only beings in that space, where space is rapidly growing at exponential levels all around us in 360 degrees in every space, south, north, east, west, every space is just constantly growing. To think that we're the only life forms that have existed that have gotten higher intelligence is just, I think the statistics alone it's almost impossible.
It's almost like what I said about being an atheist. It takes more faith to be an atheist than I think to be a believer. And I think it's similar in this regards.
But, and I'm glad you said atheist, but we were both raised very, very Christian. And so do you still believe in creationism as well?
Yeah, great question. Yes. I think creationism is just the way this whole thing happened. And this ties in great to aliens because people say, oh, well, if aliens are real, you can't be a Christian or you can't believe in God. What the hell? What are you talking about? Why not? Oh, well, you cannot. This is when people try to put God in a box. You can't do that.
Yep.
You can't say, okay, God is only the God of earth. Who are you to say what God is? God is infinite, all-knowing, all-everything.
And if you really delve into the Bible like we did in our first formidable years, like we had to at school, you realize that it doesn't say God only created this earth.
That's what I'm saying.
It's just that's the earth that we got.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean that he didn't transcend time again and do it again somewhere else in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
So it, just because, and I'm glad you brought up the atheist because I really wanted to dive into the Christian part of it too because I believe in creationism as well. Now, it also says in the Bible that we can't define God. Our human brains can't define what God is. Now, when I say God and that I'm a Christian, what 99.9% of the people listening or anyone in the population thinks is this white dude with blonde hair and blue eyes. That is not what I'm talking about.
You can't humanize them.
That's not what I'm talking about. I am talking about you can even have someone in here that believes in the exact opposite of creationism, which is the Big Bang Theory, right? And Darwinism and all that kind of stuff. But there still has to be something that created the bang.
For sure.
Like even if everything was created with the Big Bang, right? Let's just say that happened. Well, what made the Big Bang happen? Because nothing times nothing is always nothing. There had to be something there for something to be created to form into whatever life form that is. Whether it's a speck of sand in the ocean of the galaxies that created all life on Earth and all life everywhere. Well, where did this speck of sand come from?
And that goes back to my point about saying I think it takes too much faith not to believe. I think on some level everybody does. It's just kind of semantics. But when it comes back to these creatures and these aliens, we have so much evidence that they've been here, that that we've recovered these crafts, that we've even recovered some of them, and we've been studying them for years. When Roswell came. And then they said it was a weather balloon and they bought it. Back then you could lie. Like, for example, another big conspiracy. I do not believe that Hitler died in a bunker with Eva Braun in Berlin. I never, and I've spent hours on Hitler too.
Same.
Same.
I don't believe so either.
Yeah,
I think he died in South America.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think he died a couple of decades ago, not even that long ago.
And so back then, they wanted him dead. Okay, they wanted the war to be over.
Yep.
And, initially when they said they had his body, it wasn't even his body, it was a woman's body. So my point is you could easily lie back then because there was no internet. Oh, you printed it in the paper and it was true. People just believed everything.
In less than 24 hours.
Yeah.
Cremated in less than 24 hours.
And by the way, I'm not buying 9/11 bin Laden and his body and all that bullshit either. I'm not buying any of that shit.
Well, here's the problem when you lie all the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you tell the truth once out of 100 times, and there's 99 lies. That one truth is going to be considered a lie.
Yeah.
It's crying wolf. Yeah. It's that whole thing, and the politicians and the media has done it for too long.
For people that want to get into UFOs, I think the starter package, the best documentary that I've seen, and guys, I can't tell you how many hours I've spent looking at UFOs. By the way, the pyramids also got me very interested in the UFOs because I'm fascinated by the pyramids. And I think there's something there. I mean, they even have pyramids in the hieroglyphics. I mean, they have aliens in the hieroglyphics of the pyramids.
Yeah,
those exist.
I agree.
Unacknowledged by Dr. Stephen Greer. And it's all over like Netflix and Amazon Prime Video and all that stuff. Now, Dr. Stephen Greer, he's actually a medical doctor. He's an emergency room doctor. And I don't know how he got into this, but he got into this back in the 80s and 90s. And so even like Bill Clinton called him in for a briefing because even the president doesn't have clearance on these things. That's why Rubio's asking questions. These guys have no clue. They keep them in the dark.
Yeah, and these whistleblowers are saying, Congress, you have no idea what's happening. You have no idea what's happening, and you should.
None of these elected officials really have clearance into any of this stuff that's going on, man. They really, really don't. These guys, all they're assigned with doing is just being corrupt and running the country into the ground.
6 degrees of separation is what it is.
So unacknowledged is the great one. And I think he does a really good job laying things out, sort of like the basics. Mm-hmm. And then Bob Lazar, his story is fantastic. Now, that one was produced by Jeremy Corbell with the help of George Knapp. So back in the 80s, or it might have been the 90s, Bob Lazar came forward as a whistleblower and said, look, I have been working on reverse engineering craft that we have recovered. Okay? Yeah. He was living in Vegas. They were sending him out to S4, which is near Area 51. And then he got caught up. So there was something involved with his wife and a scandal, and they were tapping his phones. And he basically came out for protection because he knew that if he didn't, they were going to kill him. And they did try to kill him, actually. He got
really?
He got shot at.
Oh, wow.
He got shot at. And so the whole story is fantastic. And the dude is super believable. He's been on...
I know he's been on Rogan a
he's been
number
on
of
Rogan.
times
He's been on Rogan
and told his story.
twice, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's some stuff that he told Rogan that Rogan always says this. He's like, well, I can't say this on air.
Right.
But there's some stuff about his education, because everyone wants to call Bob Lazar a liar because they said he forged some educations, that he went to MIT, but he didn't go to MIT, something weird like
Right.
that. But there's something behind it.
I can tell you, man, there have been more credible, like completely sane, credible Air Force pilots that have come in and said, and they have testimonials from some of these pilots that say, hey, after so many weeks of seeing these things, we just stop telling people.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
nothing happens. You know, we're doing our maneuvers off the East Coast or off the West Coast, and we see all of these things. We come back in and report it, and then the next day it's like, okay, go back there. And they're like, well, what about the things? And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Basically, I mean, they say, oh, we sent it into whoever, but nothing ever happens. I mean, all of these guys come out and say the exact same story every single time, which is we report it and nothing happens. We don't get told how to document. We don't get told to turn off this type of equipment. We don't get told that our equipment was malfunctioned. We don't have to go take our equipment in to get tested. None of that happens when we tell people. We just go out and do the maneuvers again, and they're there again every day almost.
Lieutenant Colonel or Lieutenant Fravor off the USS Nimitz.
That's the one that saw the Tic Tac,
yeah,
right?
that was near San Diego. That's the dude that wasn't too long ago.
No, that was like 2018.
Yeah, and they have it on radar.
Yeah,
they have everything. That's
and they
kind
even
of
have
what
a
got
night.
things going.
They even have a night vision video of it, and it's basically like this Tic Tac thing that starts at 50,000 feet in the air, and in less than 1 second is 1 foot over the ocean, and then just disappears into the ocean, and then they can track it under the ocean, and it goes this incredible amount of speed that none of our stuff can do. Pops back out of the ocean, is gone.
There's a lot of stuff about these things going to the ocean. There's also a lot of stuff about these things being in Antarctica too. You know, there's a no-fly zone directly over the North Pole, and you know by the way, the Nazis went to Antarctica. They had bases in Antarctica.
I mean, do you think it's because of
I don't listen. The Nazis were into some crazy stuff, dude. I don't know. Where there's smoke, there's fire. There's weird stuff going on.
Well, I'm glad you said where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah,
because I always like to look at these things as a double-edged sword. What happened in September 2019? In September 2019, we started getting told that there was this virus, right? That there was this virus it's over in China. It's in this little province. Shouldn't be a big deal. They're maintaining and all this kind of stuff. Fast forward to 8 months or 6 months later, and what do we have? We have the pandemic of mass proportions, and it's right around that election time cycle, right? That's when it happened, was September, and then we had the election. All of that
nice
happened.
Coincidence, yeah.
So when did all this UFO stuff start ramping up again? Like in the last 18 months,
yeah.
right?
Election time.
And now that we're getting closer to another election, is this going to be the next pandemic? Is this what they need? Is this the flag that they're going to fly to get people to do what they want? Okay. Is this their currency now?
Okay, if that's a great question. I am the wrong person to ask, because in my mind, I'm such a believer that when it does get announced, all I'm going to do is walk around and tell everyone, told you so, told you so, told you so, especially all the doctors, because they annoy me.
Right.
And,
what if it's, and I don't mean to sound cynical here, what if it is all mainstream media and all the current government officials that are coming out and telling us that this stuff is real? How much are you willing to believe from them?
Yeah. No, to me, it's real. I don't need anyone to tell me it's real or not.
What I'm saying is, does that give you some skepticism because of who's saying it's real now? Remember, it's like crying wolf. They've cried wolf about all of these things for so long that are they just preparing us to tell us that it's real, even if it's not, right? And I hope that it is, and I think that it is too. I think that these things are actually real, but there is that 1% that I have. And when the government starts telling me things like this, and Marco Rubio, who's basically a Democrat, comes out and says, oh, I have firsthand knowledge of this stuff, or I've talked to people that have firsthand knowledge of this stuff. I mean, you don't see, like other senators coming out saying this stuff that are far right, because Rubio might as well lean left at this point.
Well, what they're going to do, Mike, they're going to weaponize it. They're going to weaponize it the same way they weaponized COVID.
Right.
And so they're going to say, okay, aliens are real. They pose a threat for your safety. You have to do this. We have to microchip everybody. We have to do, you know what I'm saying? I mean, they're going to weaponize it. And so.
And is that what they're doing?
I don't know. They could. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, when it comes to the masses, how are people going to react when it comes out? I am convinced that in our lifetime, it's going to come out and everyone's going to be like, holy shit, aliens were real. Oh my God, we're not alone. Are they going to come kill us? Are they friendly? What's going on?
The Congress has acknowledged that this is there have been hearings about this stuff.
Yeah.
And they showed, I think in Congress, they showed 3 videos. Only 3 videos, because these were the 3 that they could guarantee weren't doctored videos, right? They did all of the research on these videos, retraced all of the steps back. A lot of this stuff was some Air Force videos where it can't be really doctored because it goes from an airplane to, straight into kind of some type of intelligence agency and then out. I don't know, man. It's just like you said. Every time there's smoke, the house is on fire, and they want us. But it's not that house. It's another house over here, right? Like Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
Okay. And or Joe Biden getting $5 million, and then it's like, oh, wait, UFOs are real. Y'all need to look over here. Look over here, guys. Don't pay attention to that other house that's on fire. Actually, the whole White House is on fire right now, and all of Congress and everybody's on fire. But you need to worry about UFOs. That's what we need to worry about right now, because
threat to national security.
Threat to national security. We can't do this anymore. We need Joe Biden in office, or we need another Democrat in office, because we need to get this taken care of, and we're the only ones that are going to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I'm with you. This is how they operate.
It feels like another psyop. The problem is that I've watched enough information and looked up enough stuff to where I think that the probability of having extraterrestrial life is about 99.9% to the good. Like I actually think that we are either being visited or have always had these alien forms. I mean, we've only looked at like 8% of the ocean, literally, in the Earth, 8%. Yeah. So there's 92% of the ocean that no one has ever been to, ever. So you're telling me that down in the Mariana Trench, miles and miles and miles below sea level, that we can't really go down there? Yeah. That there's not some alien life form down there?
The other thing, too, that's interesting, their technology, we can't even grasp it. Okay, because they're so far advanced from us, it's almost like, and I use this analogy sometimes too. Imagine we were in the time of, like, let's say, biblical times, Moses, right? People walking around in robes with walking sticks, okay, in the desert, right? And then just imagine this, please. All of a sudden, something as simple as a helicopter comes out of the sky. Now, mind you, these people have no electricity. They have no idea that things can fly. What would the people do if they saw a helicopter in the sky? They would immediately get on their knees and start praying.
Yeah.
Because these people would think that that's God.
Yeah.
Right? Now, we live in an era where we know that helicopters not only are real, we're not even impressed by helicopters anymore.
Right.
We're like, shit, show me a stealth bomber. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, that's just a chopper. So it's all about perspective. So for us, these guys have technology that we can't even fathom.
Right.
So Bob Lazar is actually, in terms of public knowledge for us, he's the one that kind of has given us the most information about how these things actually work. And so, to the best of my understanding, the way he explains it is that the way the craft works is it is anti-gravity. So it picks a point in space and somehow it pulls it that way. Yeah. So it's not like propulsion, like a jet.
It's like if you can control space, then you can fold space to you, and then instantaneously be in that space, right? Without really moving, because what you're doing is you're moving space instead of moving the craft.
For sure.
And if you can figure that out, and this has all actually been theorized, right? All of these are theories that are being worked on at MIT and all of these higher education places, because we realize that space and time aren't linear. We know that now. We just can't figure out how to manipulate our linear knowledge of space and time into something that could bend either one.
There's this thing called element 115 that Bob Lazar was talking about back in the 90s, and it wasn't even on the periodic table then, and then they added
And now it is.
So that thing, element 115, and that's kind of where he's very hush-hush because he owns like a nuclear lab. Like his Insta handle's like United Nuclear Bob. He has a lab now. He's a physicist by trade, I think. And they rate him because they think he's either has it or knows how to create it, or it's really, really tricky. What's fascinating to me is how much we do know now, though, Mike. You know, you're talking about like linear time and space and MIT and all these guys. I mean, you know, it's so hard to fathom. You know how we've cracked the genetic code. You know, we know what DNA is made up of. We know what all the molecules are made out of. But we know we're just walking molecules.
And we can manipulate DNA now.
And, you know, like, okay, do you know how much bacteria live inside of us? We're just like a conglomerate of like other living organisms. It's actually mind-boggling when you stop and think about it.
Sure.
Like this is a good topic for us because it makes you take a step back and like really appreciate nature and how this whole thing is put together. We're just sitting on a floating rock, two dudes talking in microphones in a podcast. You know, that's a spinning floating rock in the middle of nowhere. You know, it's bizarre.
It's very bizarre.
But it's cool. It's cool to talk about. It's cool to think about.
Yeah,
You know?
I got a question for the pyramids for you. You, Graham Hancock, you know those guys, the Younger Dryas theory, and all that kind of stuff. I have a theory, and this might be one of his theories too. I'm not sure, but and I'm not sure if I heard this from him or if my brain made this up or not. So you can tell me that. So, roughly about 12,000 years ago, they think that Earth was impacted by meteor, and during that impact, it wiped out pretty much all of civilization. Dinosaurs went extinct. I mean, there's actually very, very good, solid evidence that this happened. If from core samples on Earth, right? So you dig down, low enough, and you can start to see a timeline of all these things. Well, all over the world, around that 12,000 year period, because sediment's like rings on a tree, you can just keep going down and you can find the year that these things were made, and then you can take organic matter from those and age it, right? As the further you go down. Around 12,000 years ago, the entire globe was basically on fire. There's this black line, and they can see it especially up like in Alaska, where there's permafrost that never goes away. And as they're digging into this permafrost, they're like, what is this charcoal that's just here at this 12,000 year mark? And so those type of things, they've pretty much said that this probably happened, right? We were probably struck by a meteor that probably reset civilization. They've got so much evidence. If you watch that Younger Dryas theory story or video, it's like a 4-part series on Netflix right now, made by Graham Hancock. It goes into all this, and they have great evidence. My thing where we visited 12,500 years ago, right? Not 12,000 years ago when this happened, but let's just say any time prior to that. And aliens came down because they have this space-time thing where they know, hey, these meteors are here. They're going to be here. It's going to impact Earth. It's going to upset this civilization, which they actually think was about our level of intelligence as we are today, right? They think that the Younger Dryas theory thinks that civilization just got reset and we've just basically built back up to where we were. We just went through the electricity route, and they might have gone through like a gravity time, a different technology,
sort of, power,
right? A different type of power instead of electricity. They went this route, and they were able to create these things. But the only reason they were able to do that is because the aliens knew what was going to happen, and they were like, "Look, we can come down. We can teach you how to do these things because this is the only way to keep you safe. We're going to teach you how to build these pyramids that can never go anywhere because these blocks that we're going to make them out of are so heavy and so dense that any of the radiation, any of the fires, it's not going to mess with you. We're going to teach people how to bore underground." Have you seen all of these new, Scott, real quick, Google new underground city just found under volcanic ash. Watch this. They have just now found another site that's even bigger than the pyramids of Giza. Strange underground city. There it is right there. Check this out. So this is a complete underground. And this might not be the one. I'm not sure. But no, this was one that was it was like temples, Turkey, maybe Turkish.
Ubekle yeah, that's the one in Turkey. Yeah, like Ubekle something.
Yeah, I think this one's it.
Yeah.
But
The Turkey one is
they don't
humongous.
have any idea how this stuff was carved into this stone because it's dating back 12,000 years. Again, it's all dating back around 12,000 years. So were we visited 12,500 or 13,000 or 14,000 or 15,000 years ago?
Yeah.
And these aliens were like, hey, if y'all don't do this, humanity as we know it, everyone will die. And that's why we don't have dinosaurs anymore. That's because they didn't come down to save the dinosaurs. They came down to save humanity.
I think they came for sure. There's no doubt. I mean, well, again, you're asking me. I think they've been here. You got the pyramids. You got something like the Nazca lines in Peru. You got the pyramids in other parts. Like, okay, how is there pyramids in like where the Mayans were, huge ones? And then you got pyramids in Egypt. The other thing that's very interesting about Egypt that nobody talks about, I mean, Pangea, right? Where you take all the continents, put them together. Egypt's in like the dead center. It's like a bullseye.
Yeah.
What are the odds?
Right.
What are the odds that the most like historic,
where
monumental
humanity came
thing-
from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what are the odds that it's like right in the dead center of Pangea?
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're fascinating. I personally believe that the aliens were involved in the creation of the pyramids because I don't see how anyone could reasonably explain how man can do that without, the current. I don't even think they could do it now. Maybe they
KK,
could.
they can't even duplicate some vases
Yeah.
that were made back then. Like we can't make just some ornamental vases that were made for just a flower or to store things in. They don't know how they made them today. And we can't make them like that, that perfect with machines today.
Some of the cuts that they have in some of the stones are like laser cuts that they're like.
We have no idea.
Yeah,
They're like,
and then if you look at the stones, the way they're cut, you can't even fit like razor blades through these things.
No, they're perfectly aligned. Not only that, some of these stones weigh 50, 60, 80, 100,000 pounds, right? Thousands of tons, and they were transported over 500 miles away. And we know that they were transported over 500 miles away because they found the stone that they were cut out of. So they found these big blocks, and they found the missing blocks of the stone 500 freaking miles away.
The other thing that's been recently discovered, and I think agreed upon by all ancient Egyptologists, is that the way that the pyramids are designed, the way that they align is with the Nile River. So like if you look at the pyramids of Giza that start up top and you like dot them down, like connect the dots, it goes along with the Nile. What's the problem? Is that the Nile right now is shifted 7 miles to either the east or west of the pyramid. 7 miles.
Yeah.
And so basically the pyramids, because of that, they believe are much older than what they speculate. Nobody really even knows how old they are. You know, when they found the Sphinx was buried. Half these pyramids, they didn't even, they just like found them. They're like, whoa.
Right.
Okay.
And they don't even know why the Sphinx was put there. Yeah. Like why it was made out of to look like that. Mm-hmm. They still don't know.
Yeah. No, it's bizarre.
I do have a question for you about I lost my train of thought. I was going to say something, but I lost my train of thought.
UFOs?
Yeah, it was about UFOs. I'll figure it out. So one of the other things that I think of is talking about psyops, right? Mm-hmm. All of this stuff. Because the scientific community or archaeological community, I guess, because it's both kind of scientific and archaeological, right? Why is there so much pushback towards like a Graham Hancock? Mm-hmm. Why? When you've watched his Younger Dryas Theory documentary, right?
And I saw some of the Netflix stuff too.
Why are other archaeologists or other scientists saying no when the evidence there? He explains it extremely well, and it's carried out over a very long series to where he's got time to talk about these things. And once you go through the whole thing, it's kind of like this makes way more sense than we just don't know.
Because they're trying to rewrite what these guys believe to be true. See, we're not archaeologists, but archaeology and trying to learn history is a very tricky thing because there's no book where you can go and say, okay, yeah, that is the right answer, right? So like you can have a theory as to, okay, like this underground city, it was built in this year by this person because of this reason. And you can never go say, oh yeah, Graham, like let's say Graham's your student, you're the teacher, you're like, oh, that's a great theory, Graham. Actually, that's not true because it actually is this, because you don't know the truth. I mean, it's all really speculation, to be honest. And so these guys, when you acquire enough, I think, data, they say, okay, well, we're all on the same page. We probably think this happened. But again, it's always changing. And so they don't like the change, because if you make them change, then you're basically trying to convince them that the way that they've thought things were for so long, is not true. Same thing like whenever they were trying to talk about people that study astrophysics and the stars and the planets and all that. And they say, oh, well, there's more out there. And be like, no, that's not true. There's only 8 planets, It's
Right.
like, no, there's not. There's actually billions of planets. No, there's only 8. When I was a kid, I learned there was 8.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of stubbornness and people that are just so set in their ways.
I must have fallen asleep in that class because I didn't remember. I didn't remember there was only 8 planets. So I always think when these things come out of the government that it's a psyop, right?
Yeah.
Like anytime we start getting lots and lots and lots of information from the federal government and from local, governments, and then it's all over the news, and then UFOs. Maybe it's just my algorithm, but it's all over my feed all the time now. New people popping up.
No, it's hot.
You've got this David Grush, I guess, that just came out. Do we have that article up, Scott?
No, Jeremy Corbell, who I've been following forever, guys. He's becoming very
So that's
popular
Jeremy Corbell.
now.
I think we had one up here with David Grush. I think. Did we have that? Maybe not. I think that's it right there. Yeah. So this is a New York Post article from a while back, and this is another guy, an extremely level-headed. Never been in any trouble. Has no reason to lie about all of this stuff. Actually was like fired and all this kind of stuff after. He's only 36 years old. And he says that we have recovered these vehicles. We have also recovered alien life forms. And he has firsthand knowledge of this stuff. And he was once worked on the government's United Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, but didn't offer up any evidence to back up his claims. He did confess that he hadn't actually seen photos of the alleged extraterrestrial craft, but had spoken at length with intelligence officials who had allegedly come forward to him. I thought it was totally nuts, and I thought at first I was being deceived. It was a ruse, Grush said of the alleged program. People started to confide in me, approach me. I have plenty of senior former intelligence officers that have come to me, many of which I knew almost my whole career, that confided in me that they were a part of a program. And now it has come out that this program did actually exist and does actually exist. So what this does for me is that initially his story wasn't corroborated because basically no one could find this hidden government agency that was looking into UFOs and UAPs and extraterrestrial life. But this is extremely recent. I mean, this guy just came out in the last 18 months, not even 18 months, and is saying all this stuff. And now we've got Congress going, hey, we need a better look at this. And now Marco Rubio comes out today and is like, look, I've been talked to by these guys. It just feels like it's coming to a head. And I think that by the end of the year, UFOs are going to be real. Right. I'm not saying that they're not real now. I think they are. But I think
they're going to confirm it.
I think people are going to confirm it, and I think we're going to get some actual hard data information, whether it be actual photography, actual videos of some kind of spacecraft. I do not think that they will allow the American people to see an actual alien. I don't think that they will let that leak.
If we have some, I think they're probably long gone. But I know I do believe that we've recovered bodies. I believe we've recovered bodies from the Roswell crash. The Roswell crash. I mean, I've spent hours on that. Just fascinating to hear the
Yeah, then there's
accounts
also a
and
new
all that.
documentary, the Brasilia
Yeah, the moment
Moment of Contact
from
that just
Virginia.
came out in
Yeah.
2022.
That one was crazy, Mike.
And I got to tell you, man, I watched this whole thing I tried to be very open-minded.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I have a huge biases with this because I want it to be real so bad. And I think it is real.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly do believe that it would be dumb of me to not think that there's alien life form out there of some kind. But I got to tell you, man, after watching this, and then they confirmed that the United States government, the day after this crash happened, flew an unsanctioned airplane into Brazil, landed that airplane, and was gone within 24 hours, and all of the stuff at the crash was gone. They have confirmed that the plane did leave the Air Force Base in Florida, flew down there, landed, and 24 hours it returned. They have the flight logs. They know exactly where the plane landed in Brazil, very close. I think it was 70 miles away from where this crash happened the day after.
And this is recent. This is from 96, I think.
Right, correct.
96.
Yeah.
And then
And the whole town
they saw it.
is UFO 100%. Like
They
they
saw
have
it.
UFO. It's part
Mike,
of their
they-
it's part of their whole makeup as a community.
Dude, they built a freaking like UFO monument in the middle of the city. You saw
Yes.
that thing?
Yeah.
They built like a little roundabout with the spaceship there. I mean, it's so that's the Virginia one. You told me about it, and I watched half of the documentary. I didn't finish it, but then there's like another crazy one about a craft landing. I think like in Africa with a school with a bunch of kids. That story is crazy too. Something about Africa.
Yeah.
I want to say I'll find that and I'll let you know because that one's awesome.
One
too.
of the problems with UFOs is, especially once it starts to make mainstream news or headline news or get on podcast and and be in our everyday thing, is that because there is no way to confirm or deny that these things are real or not. Me and you could go outside and I could say, hey, do you want some publicity for this podcast?
Yeah.
Let's go pretend like we saw something.
Yeah.
We'll get our story together, and then we'll get interviewed by 25 news organizations over the next 6 months. We'd be on, different podcasts telling our story, and it's all just made up. Yeah. And I think that is one of the problems that we have is because we know because we don't know 100% that these things are real or not, and how to decipher if someone's telling the truth or lying about it. How do you believe? How do you believe? How do you not believe? It's so difficult. And all of these guys that come out here are like, no, my life's worse now that I came out. Yeah. But they're also on Joe Rogan. They're also on PBK. They're also getting interviewed by Fox News. I mean, how bad is your life when all of your social media channels are going through the roof and everything else, and the guy's 36 years old?
What about the dude that got abducted and he was on Rogan? I believe that guy. Do you remember that guy? He was like an older white guy. He told the story, him and his friends.
I don't think I watched that one.
Oh man, dude, that story is dude. Some of these abduction stories are incredible, and I got a good one too. So Patient 17 is the name of a documentary that Jeremy Corbell put together too, and what that one is that people that have been abducted, they usually are left with something inside of them, like a little piece of metal, like a little tracker. I don't know what it is, but like they've recovered it. And so Patient 17 was one that Jeremy Corbell put together, and I thought it was fantastic. And so, during my vein procedures, me and my tech, we talk, we pass the time. I have to talk to the patients sometimes, like they're sedated, but they're enough to where we can talk and have fun. And the irony is, I talk about weird stuff, and sometimes I talk about UFOs. One time, I was working on a patient's leg, on his vein, and he, we have a light similar like this, where, they can see. And he goes, do you guys believe in UFOs? And I go, what did you say? I looked at him, I go, what?
While you have his vein in your hand?
Yeah, no, I was working, I was doing the procedure, and I stopped, and I go, whoa. I go, yeah. Why are you asking that? I thought it was so weird. I was like, he's like, oh, well, and we give him Valium. And he was looking up at the orb of light. And he was like, and then you could tell he was like, got a little flustered. And I was like, no. And I stopped. I was like, no, tell me, like, why? Like, right. I was like really interested. Dude claims him and his friends were abducted, but he doesn't remember like necessarily being abducted. He just remembers him and his friends were out camping somewhere. This was like back in like the 80s, I think, or 90s maybe. And then and it's very similar to the other guy, the story that the other guy that went on Rogan. I got to tell you that guy, you got to go back and listen to that podcast. It's really good.
I will.
And basically where everybody's just hanging out, chilling, and then they completely lose track of time, and then they're all back, and they're all confused, and it's like a day or two later. And it's like, where were we? What happened? Who knows? And so, but he actually said he remembered kind of like seeing like a craft come at them. And I believed him. And so I asked him, I said, okay, all right, well, this is very interesting. I was like, have you told him? And do you talk? He's like, well, my wife knows and some other people know. And I said, well, do you think that they left anything inside of you? And this is after I watched Patient 17. He's like, well, and he points like here. And the irony is this is like in the arm is usually where they leave something. And he's like points towards his wrist. And I was like, well, I can, get an x-ray for you. I basically wanted to investigate.
Yeah.
I was like, I can get an x-ray and, we can take a look. If your wrist is hurting you, we can see what's going on. And so he wanted to, but then he was like, his wife, who I did not talk to about it because it's not my business, but wouldn't let him pursue that because she was scared that if we did do an x-ray and find something and take it out, that it would upset the aliens and then somehow something bad would happen. I swear to God.
Oh, so she really believed.
Yeah, well, she was just like didn't want to even like entertain it. But I mean, enough to where she told him no.
Wow.
But we were going to get an x-ray and everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there's this other theory I want to run by you, that we are the aliens, right? So as our civilization advances, and if you consider how much has advanced over the last decade, and even over the last 100 years, right? How we've completely changed the face of the earth, and we've completely changed who we are as humans, and how we interact with each other, how we get from place to place. I mean, you would think you were in an alien movie if you were transported here from 1923 to 2023. You would honestly think that you're in a different planet. So if our technology keeps advancing at the rate that it's advancing now, and we fast forward, let's just say 1,000 years, which in the grand scheme of things is nothing, right?
No, considering how old the Earth is.
Right. So just 1,000 years worth of advancement. Do you think that it might be us coming back and saying, hey, guys, we're going to show you a little something here and there, and because we know what happens.
So now you're talking time travel.
Time travel.
Yeah. I am not actually that... time travel is tricky, and I can't come out and tell you the way I'm so adamant about UFOs. I'm like, I will on the internet say I'm an interventional cardiologist who believes in UFOs. I believe they're real. It's a lot harder for me to come out and say, yeah, I also believe in time travel. Then they're really gonna think I'm a quack.
It's just a theory. It's just a theory.
No. But
I just want your opinion on it.
No, but I am not. I haven't ruled it out, because when it comes to like multiverse, parallel universes, stuff like that, it's fascinating, man. It really is. And the more you dive into it and the more you hear about it and the more you think about it, some of this stuff makes sense, Mikey. There's actually this crazy time travel story. If it's true, it's freaking phenomenal, about some guy who came back from a country that didn't exist, and he stopped him at the airport, and he had a passport from some weird country. They put him in a hotel room. And then he ended up and then they like locked him in a hotel room. Then he like disappeared. I'll try and get you that story. There's a short YouTube clip about it. If that story is real.
Have you heard of this, Scott?
Yeah, you've heard of that one, Scott? Yeah.
Really?
It's like they said, where are you from? He said, I'm from this country called so-and-so. He had a passport of a country.
From the country that didn't exist.
That didn't exist. And he was like showing them on the map that it's from here. And then they like take him, they like, who are you? Where'd you come from? And they kind of like lock him in a hotel room. And then the next day he's just gone.
That's awesome.
And so if that story is real, when you hear stuff like this, you're like, and this type of story I think was like corroborated by like multiple people, to where people to this day are just like, what the hell?
That's unbelievable.
And so stuff like that.
Is this
like, and there's some other crazy like stuff like, old pictures and videos, people walking through with cell phones and stuff like that. No, I've gone down the time travel rabbit hole myself. And so...
So, Rod, But what is it called? The
Torrid. Yeah,
Torrid.
Torrid. Yeah.
Man from Torrid, the traveler from an alternate universe. It's on YouTube.
Well, this is just a podcast. I'm
Yeah,
talking about
they
it.
talk about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
It's on the Things
Yeah.
I Learned Last Night podcast. Actually, that's a pretty good podcast. I've listened to that before.
Yeah. No, so this one is my favorite time traveler story, if it's real.
So, there was also another theory about that. This is the reason why the United Nations was put together. Right? When was the United Nations established again?
Yeah, 50s, I think.
Right, which is right around the same time. And
As Roswell.
right, and there's all of these other theories that we only get visited during times of turmoil, like when and this is why I wanted to bring up the time travel thing, is because if they know what's going to happen in the future, I'm not saying that they're from the future, but maybe they have a better understanding of seeing the future, right? Like we can predict when a hurricane's going to happen, right? Well, what if they can predict when
A meteorite's going to strike
or
something,
any
yeah.
type of humanity ending event, right? Even if it's just done, even if it's done by us to us, right? Like Vladimir Putin's like, you know what?
Yeah.
And it just vaporized.
Yeah.
Maybe because they're so intelligent and they have all of this technology that they're able to see from where we're going, and they can see the road that we're headed on.
For sure.
And maybe that's when they start to pop up. You know, say, hey, y'all need to get your shit together.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
you need to stop doing this, or you're going to kill everything here, and you're never going to advance to where you need to advance, which is a multiplanetary type of human that we can expand our universe and expand our Earth and all of these things. You know, the Elon Musk theory of needing to go to Mars and all this kind of stuff to make sure that humanity exists.
There's a lot of that out there, Mike. There's a lot of stuff basically suggesting that all the messages that they leave for us are ones of like peace and prosperity, and basically trying to warn us, because back to what you said, we are killing each other.
Every
We're
day.
killing each other
Every day.
we're killing the planet.
Yeah.
Okay, we're killing each other and the planet, and so we are not headed in a very good direction here.
Yeah.
And so, I couldn't agree with that more. The other thing about aliens, okay, let's say...
Yeah, look, see, United Nations, October 24th, 1945, which is right around when all of this UFO stuff really started to happen.
Yeah.
It was Vietnam War. It was right after World War II. All of these things, Vietnam War was a little bit later, but, the start of the Vietnam War over there started in the late 40s, I think. And we just got involved in, I think, the 60s.
If the UFO came in the middle of wartime, that's a really nice way to get the war to stop.
Yeah, and look, Roswell right after,
Yeah.
1947.
Yeah. So, let's say there's like a major war going on, Russia, Ukraine right now, and people are like fighting back and forth, killing each other. UFO comes, lands right in the middle, gets out. What's people going to do?
Immediately
stop. And they'll be like,
what are y'all doing?
well, yeah. And then they would realize, why are we killing each other? This is so stupid. We're all part of
They'd
like
probably
the
try
same
to kill the aliens, and the aliens would be like, your bullets don't work on us.
Yeah, I hope not. I hope they wouldn't try and do that.
What's that part in Tommy Boy when he fakes that the bees are killing him? And he's like, there's bees, they're everywhere. Run away, your firearms are useless against them.
Yeah,
That's how it would be with the aliens. Our firearms would be useless against them.
for sure. Yeah, so I hope they're friendly.
I hope that one day, that in my lifetime, before I die, that our media and our government would actually just give us the truth every time, no matter what.
Yeah. They're supposedly
Just
trying to
the truth.
They're supposedly trying to protect us.
But what they don't understand is by protecting us, you are degrading the value of your information.
For sure.
You're degrading it to the point to where now no one believes you about anything that you say or do. I mean, we're giving all of this money to the Ukraine. Oh, oops, we accidentally gave them $6 billion more. My bad.
Yeah.
It's like we don't believe anything you say.
I think
nothing you say anymore.
COVID caused like just complete damage when it comes to trust. Because if we actually do have a pandemic, like a real one, okay, rephrase. Okay. I don't want to say COVID wasn't real. Like I said, I was in the hospital with COVID. I told you guys. I was in the ICU for 10 days.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I don't want to say it's not real. It was, but do I think that we overreacted? Absolutely. And I've had so many really heated debates with so many physicians, family members over this. I'm like, and to this day, some people will be like, no, we didn't overreact. And I would be like, it's hard for me to even like have conversations with those. I was like, what do you mean we didn't overreact? The economy's shit, inflation shit, the whole infrastructure, everything's more. What? Yeah, we did overreact. You know, it's like, yeah, did people die? Yeah. And the other thing too is, you know, the overinflation of the death toll, and you know, and the whole thing about the vaccine, and you know, it being super safe when in reality it's very questionable.
It's just lie after lie after lie after lie.
It's gonna be hard,
and we're never gonna
convince us.
And it's gonna take a lot of time and a lot of effort on their part to build back the trust. And I think that if our politicians and our media out there can start to do that on a regular basis, I think that we can get back to where we were. And I think we can do it with the way that we can inform people now with internet and things like that. I think that the time frame to get back to the truth is a lot shorter than how far we've gotten away from it. I think that it took a long time for us to get this far away because people just figured out that they could lie and they couldn't get caught. But now you can't. Twitter is a free space that they're not going to start pulling stuff off of, and you can speak your mind there, and the truth will eventually come out. And I think that if we can start doing that as humans and start just being truthful about things, that a lot of these things that we have conspiracy theories on will come out as either just that or they will actually be real. And then you let people decide what they want to believe and what they don't want to believe. But the truth is the truth. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care about who you are. It makes no difference what color your skin is, what your ethnicity is, if you're male or female. It doesn't matter. The truth is the truth always.
But there are some people, Mike, you can show them like that. You can show them everything. You can show them all the evidence in the world, and they still won't believe it.
That's fine. That's they have the ability to do that.
But there's a lot of people like that.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
And in the end, they'll get found out as just being dumb.
Yeah, but for sure. I judge those people harshly. But and to me, that's not even like a partisan thing. You know, I think I would say there's no doubt that Republicans distrust the government more than Democrats. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
I think that's. I don't think anyone could.
I don't think anyone trusts the government anymore.
Yeah, but I think more so, left versus right.
More so right.
I think
more so the right. I would agree with that.
We don't really believe much that's coming out of there. But yeah, it's just going to be hard to convince people to get that when shit does hit the fan. Mm-hmm. And we do need people to actually act accordingly and together in unison. It's going to be much harder.
Yep, I agree. Well, Guy, that was an hour. Can you believe that?
No.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Just flew by.
Was it really?
We start talking about UFOs and we can go.
I thought we were going to go 30 minutes. We went an hour.
We hit an hour.
No, but I like the conspiracy theories.
I love it too. And we're going to go. Hey, guys, if y'all like this, y'all like it, forward it on, comment below, whatever you want to do on it. We're going to put up all of the links to all of the documentaries, Scotty Boy, for everyone to go out and do their own research. They can see all of this stuff. Follow Joe Rogan on his podcast on Spotify because he interviews these guys like crazy and they're awesome all the time. So go out there, get your information for yourself. I think UFOs are 100% real, and I can't wait to know for sure. And I can't wait to see one of these flying saucers around. I know you had a good time talking about it, but appreciate you, man.
Yes,
Love you, Guy.
buddy.
All right, we'll see you soon, guys. Bye.
Oh, man, we did an hour on UFOs?
Like in 5 minutes. That felt like 5 minutes, bro.